Hi friends, it's Lala. Today's video is me reading the 5 lowest rated books on my TBR. Let me give you a little bit of backstory. So like 6 months ago I posted this video that was the lowest rated books that I love. Books that everyone else hates, but I love. And what I did is I went on my Goodreads and I looked up all the books that I rated high, and I talked about the ones that have the lowest average rating from everybody else on Goodreads, and why I think they don't like it, and why I ended up liking it. The whole point was, I often love books that everybody else hates. And the second I posted that video, I had this inspiration for this video. And the only reason that it's taken me like 6 months to kick it off is purely the prep work involved. I want to read the lowest rated books on my TBR. That is my goal for this video, is to find the 5 books that are rated low, averagely low by everyone on Goodreads, and then read them and see if the trend continues of me loving books that everyone else hates. Or we find out if a book is actually really garbage and I agree with the general consensus. The problem is I have like, I don't know, 400 physical TBR books. But on Goodreads, my to read shelf is only 228 books. And I know for a fact, at least half of those books haven't even come out yet. I mostly use my Goodreads to add upcoming titles. I don't add books that I buy that I have in physical form to my Goodreads very often. So to find out the lowest rated book on my TBR, I have to add like 400 books to my Goodreads TBR right now by hand. So that's the first step of this video, and you're gonna stick around with me and endure this because I have to. So if I remember correctly, Goodreads has a scan books thing. And I should just be able to scan the barcode of every one of these books and add it. All right, scan books. The screen looks crazy. And I have a feeling most of these books aren't on my TBR yet. So let's just grab the first one. What do we do? Scan. Oh, something's happening. Oh, that takes a while. All right, it popped up. Click want to read. Oh, everyone's feed is just gonna be full of like 400 books. Me just adding everything. All right, let's keep going. It might just be faster to like type in all of these. Now keep in mind, this is not the lowest rated books on Goodreads. These are still books that I actively want to read. I just don't want anyone to get this misconstrued, like, well, why would you waste your time reading books you don't think you're gonna like? I wouldn't have added it to my TBR if I genuinely thought it was bad or that I wouldn't like it. I just want to see, of all the books that I want to read, what everyone else didn't like. And then if I end up liking that book or not. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so clearly it's the next day. I spent late into the night adding all these books to my TBR. And all together, I'll tell you how many books are now on my TBR. I now have, drumroll please, 462 books on my TBR. I don't know if you could tell when I was doing the app, but it showed the rating for every single book, like as I was trying to add it to the shelf. Every time I searched something, the rating would pop up, but I did not cheat, not even once. I didn't peek, I avoided eye contact with the number every single time. So I have no idea what to expect. I will say I have some predictions. I just pulled, as I was scanning all of these, I pulled some off the shelf that I thought maybe would be on the list. This is the only thing on my shelf that seems glaringly obvious. His books are extremely polarizing. So my other predictions I threw these two on there because books by like celebrities, besides memoirs, like when a celebrity tries to do fiction, a lot of people end up hating it. So I have some of those. Maybe just books that I've never heard anyone talk about. Maybe I've never heard them talk about because they're not good. So here's a couple books that I've never heard anyone mention on BookTube that happen to be on my shelf. And my last predictions are some like thrillers. Really not very well-known thrillers that I've never seen anyone mention. I feel like I haven't seen them mentioned because maybe people hate them. So those are some of my predictions. My last prediction is there's not going to be any YA. I think adults are more critical, and so in the adult age range, we're going to see lower ratings overall. That's just my prediction, and I could totally be proven wrong with all of this in a second. Going by average rating, want to read shelf, 462 books. I'm nervous to see what I'm going to be reading. I'm going to be reading these 5 books over like the next month, just whenever I can fit them into my TBR. And then this video probably came out months after I started filming it. Okay, average rating is clicked. Okay, so the first average ratings are 0. Now I have to scroll past all of them. Oh my god, 2.42. Campfire Stories of Western Canada. I just bought this like a couple weeks ago. I haven't even hauled it yet. Okay, I have to go get it. Okay, so what I think I should talk about for each selection is why it's on my TBR and why I think it has a low rating. So since I bought this completely on my own with no prompting, I'd never heard of this before from anybody on the internet or in real life, I can't think of why this has a low rating. It's by one person, Barbara Smith. She's a best-selling author of more than 30 books. Keenly interested in Canadian social history, she writes on a variety of topics from folklore to true crime. She lives in Victoria, BC. That's kind of near me. So the reason I bought this is I was at Value Village and I actually just saw the word Canada on it, and I thought it would be really good for my Canadian readathon happening in July. Right now it's June. So maybe I'll just throw this in my July TBR and like not tell you why I'm actually reading it, and then once this video comes out, like we'll see what's up. I can't think of why this has low ratings other than like the stories might be bad or stolen or something. This is such a low rating, 2.42. Although maybe it's because no one has actually read it, and maybe it only has like okay, it has 12 ratings. Do I want to read why people didn't like it? No, I'm not going to read any reviews for any of these books. I'm going to read them on my own, decide my rating, and then read what other people had to say about the ratings. At the end of this video, we'll discuss that. There's my first book of 5. Next book has a 2.89 rating, and it's The Flame Alphabet. Shit! I didn't want to read that. I was thinking about getting rid of it. Why I bought this is because it has a beautiful cover. That's it. I know absolutely nothing about it. Why do I think it has a low rating? I have no idea. How many ratings? Wow. 4,500 ratings, and it has under a 3. I have nothing else to say because I haven't read any of it yet. Okay, next book is 2.93, and that book is Those Girls by Lauren Saft. This one might be YA, and I have a feeling it has a low rating just because it's controversial. It's about party girls and like friendship gone badly. I actually bought this by accident. I was trying to buy Those Girls by Chevy Stevens, but in the store could not remember. I was like at Chapters and I saw Those Girls and I was like, I have a book called Those Girls on my TBR, but I couldn't remember the author and I just assumed this was the right book. It wasn't. And it still just sat on my TBR for like 2 years. Okay, and I have to mention, you know how on Goodreads there's a list of genres that the book falls in? There's like, well, it also does age range, like if it's young adult, fantasy, contemporary. I've never seen this genre before. It says, did not finish. So many people have shelved this, did not finish, that it is listed as one of its definitive genres. That's intense. Altogether, there are 749 ratings of this. Fourth book is 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl by Mona Awad. 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl has a 3.01 rating, which isn't a terrible sounding rating. 3 out of 5 is you know, a passing grade. But for Goodreads, a 3 or anything under a 3 is quite low. This one has a good amount of ratings, 7,200. Another small book. So this, again, I can assume is on the list because it's controversial. It has the word fat in the title, which makes me think it's pretty polarizing to people. And I think this is about, yeah, a girl dating online and not wanting to show her real pictures because of her appearance. Oh, this one is also a Canadian book. You think they get low ratings because they're Canadian? I can tell you I bought this purely because I thought it was cute. I like the font, I like the simplistic cover. Yeah. And the fifth one is Palo Alto by James Franco. Okay, one book of the 5 I predicted correctly. That is book number 5 with a 3.04 rating. And 9,000 people, over 9,000, have read and rated this. Or have at least rated it. I don't know if they read it. This I don't know a ton about, but I know it's very controversial. I think there's like, is it soccer? A soccer coach and a soccer player. Oh, and I don't know why I bought this. I think I just liked the cover. And I knew it was a movie, so I thought I would just grab it and see what I thought. I have not seen the movie. Maybe I'll watch it after this. So my goal is to find out what these are about and read them all in the next little bit. And then come back and talk about if I liked them or not. So for the most part, I can see why these ones are on the list. Just the controversial factor. And I don't know about these ones. I can't think of why they're on here, other than maybe they're just bad, poorly written. Like, I don't know what they really are. I don't think having a 2 point something rating or a 3 means that everyone rated it a 3. Maybe it's like everyone either rates it a 1 or a 5. And I'm hoping in these cases that I am the 5, and I hope that I love what I read. Okay, I'm starting my first read. I'm doing the 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl, and I'm currently taking part in a readathon. So it's a Canadian focused one, and this is a Canadian author, so I'm kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak, by reading it for that readathon and also reading it for this challenge, which, like, you guys have no idea that that's happening right now. So I'll let you know what I think about this and why it has such a low rating as I read on. So I'm 7 pages in, and I think I've gotten my first taste of why people don't like this book. So the line is, later on, I'm going to be really fucking beautiful. I'm going to grow into that nose and develop an eating disorder. I'll be hungry and angry all my life, but I'll also have a hell of a time. Here's the thing with content like this, is can you dislike a book for having a dislikable main character? And also, can you dislike a book because you think it is giving a poor message? I don't personally think either of those things are true. That a book is inherently bad because it doesn't say nice things and isn't full of nice people. It's a couple hours later. I'm halfway through the book, and I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just okay so far. It's definitely full of a lot of like self-hate and body shaming, and it's from like a couple different perspectives. So 13 ways of looking at a fat girl. Like, there's not 13 perspectives, I don't think. A lot of the perspectives are hers, and it's her looking at herself and then other people looking at her, and there's like fat shaming and judgment and assumptions and like some shitty stuff, but it's all pretty real. So okay, so I found another instance that's upsetting. My father would stare at my extra flesh like it was some weird piece of clothing I was wearing just to annoy him. Like my fat was an elaborate turban or Mel's zombie tiara or some anarchy flag that in my impetuous youth I was choosing to hold up and wave in his face. So there's an issue with comparing being fat to any of those other things, but also comparing those things amongst each other. Wearing a turban compared to waving an anarchy flag compared to wearing a tiara. Just Just a little weird. Again though, this is like, do we separate a character's opinion from an author's opinion? I finished this and I don't have like a, I don't know. I kind of want to give it 5 stars. Okay, I'll just say it. It was just so interesting. It was full of like stereotypes and prejudice and like shitty shit. But it was just like a glimpse into a woman's life and her obsession with food and her body. And it was just really interesting. So now I'm gonna look up reviews because I haven't read a single review. I haven't looked at why anybody feels the way they do about this book and try to figure out why people don't like it. Like, it for sure could have done more. It could have been a commentary on society, and it could have talked more about how what she was going through was unhealthy, and even given like a helpline at the end, like a lot of books these days do. Like, if you're struggling with an eating disorder, like, call this number. I just think people probably took this like really seriously. 3 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 3 stars, 3 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars. That's what my friends rated it. Roxanne Gay gave it 4 stars. She said the story became stagnant. I get that, but I also think it would have been a lot less raw if it gave just like a happy, like wrapped up, self-aware ending. I couldn't handle how stereotypical this damn book was. Liz is a big girl. She's also socially awkward, a poor educational achiever, and has terrible self-esteem. Sure. Lori gave it 2 stars. Elizabeth comes off as unlikable, sad, and lost, and I couldn't relate. Okay. I'm not trying to like argue other people's ratings. I'm just trying to understand them and maybe give why I don't feel the same way. I don't need to relate to a character at all in order to appreciate a narrative. This was a mega downer with a mean-spirited character who was her own worst enemy. Yeah. This book captured every single negative stereotype about women of all sizes in one fell swoop. Fat women are all bitter, unhealthy. I think a fascinating part of this book was her realization, even if she didn't gain anything from it, was seeing how women of all different sizes are both miserable and happy. Like, she had a fat girl as her nail person and she couldn't understand why she was so happy with her life, and then she met super skinny girls who were just miserable and obsessive, and why couldn't she just be happy when she was skinny? So interesting how we all get totally different things from this. Even writing this review makes me want to grab a copy of this book and burn it so other people can avoid its bitter poison. Okay, well, 5 stars. This is my brand of bitter poison. Alright, I'm so glad this was the first book because it just goes to show that a book having an averagely low rating probably means I'm gonna love it. Now I feel even more excited about the rest of the things. So I'm on to my second book now. It's Campfire Stories of Western Canada, and it's already pretty clear why it has a low rating. Each of the stories is 2 to 3 pages long at most, and so far the first 3 stories I read ended with like, and it was a ghost all along. So just not good stories at all. Just like a couple people in the middle of the night went to a diner and then they realized the diner wasn't really there and it was a ghost inside. Not super well written, not even stories you'd want to tell around a campfire. Maybe if they were more than like a couple pages each, you could actually get into the story, but yeah, I'll keep reading. Update, the 4th story was another ghost story. I was excited about it because it takes place where I live, but the ending again was she was just a ghost. Update, story 5 wasn't a ghost. It was a ghost boat. Fuck. Oh my god. The 6th story was a ghost story. There's just no like background to any of these stories. It's just like a man stays in a hotel room. He sees a ghost. The innkeeper the next day says, "Oh, that's my husband, the ghost." The next story has some promise. It said something about a deranged killer. Maybe there won't be a ghost. That one was indeed not a ghost story. The one after it was a ghost story. I now understand the low rating, at least I think. I'll read other people's reviews now and see. But I think I'm giving this 1 star. Like, I appreciate that these are all kind of like local stories, but they weren't actually stories. I don't even know how to explain what they were. You guys will never guess how many stories were in here. If I had known how many stories were in here, I could have guessed that the reason it's rated low is because there was no time for development. I figured this was probably 3 or 4, and even if they were all ghost stories at that point, like, it would have been fine. But there were 42 stories in here. In 143 pages. If you do the math, that's 3 pages a story. There are like almost completely blank pages too. 1, 2, 3. So 3 and 2 lines for like every story. That was a bad time. It was nice that I have like visited all of the places mentioned, all of the locations. It was fun to, I don't know, recognize the places I was reading about for once. But yeah, it was bad. It's really bad. Yeah, 2.38 stars, and I gave it a 1. So for this one, I'm below the average rating. Okay, none of my friends have read it, but the ratings are all 1 star, 3 star, 1 star, 2 star, 2 star. And the reasons are, it was boring, it was quick, there was no suspense, and those are all the ratings. There have been like 43 ratings. Yeah, well, okay, you know what? At least it was a very quick read. It was done in like an hour, and I didn't spend too much time on a book that I was going to end up hating. The next book I'm going to be reading is Palo Alto. I'm currently in a readathon where one of the challenges is to read a book that's been adapted and then also watch the adaptation in that week. So I figured this was a good one because I've never seen it, and it's comprised of short stories, I'm pretty sure, so I can get through it quickly in a readathon. The reason I think this probably has low ratings is because it's controversial. I think it's about like a coach and a soccer player engaging in a relationship. But it also might be like really poorly written, or something else might be happening that I'm unaware of. I'll let you know what I think. So this one's embarrassing because obviously I knew absolutely nothing going into it, and I just used like 30 seconds of a trailer that I've seen for the movie to decide what it was about. In fact, I don't see how any of these stories are related, so I guess the book and movie doesn't revolve around one central plot. There's a variety of stories, all from different perspectives, about teens, it seems, all living in Palo Alto, California. I'm really interested to see the movie now, just to know like if these stories all do relate to each other, or if the movie focuses on just one of the stories, or how it actually works. I've read the first 3 stories now, and don't think there's anything inherently wrong with them. However, they're all written in the exact same voice, which I find very strange considering they're all supposed to be narrated by different people. So I guess that's my only critique so far. Like for the first story, the writing wasn't good necessarily, but I thought, okay, this is just the character's voice, and it's stilted and it's not very sophisticated. But then that trend continued with subsequent stories, and so I think maybe it's just his writing and it isn't very impressive. Okay, so the stories are related. I'm at the point where they're starting to like tie together. I'm not liking it anymore, but I guess it got more interesting. I did not like Palo Alto. 2 out of 5 stars. I just don't, I think I understand the point of it. I understand that it's some like, it's based on real stuff, and a lot of it was just like not fun to read. That never makes me not like a book though, like difficult subject matter. It just like also wasn't like done very well in my opinion. I want to find out why other people didn't like it. I'm assuming just the constant slurs and like unnecessary offensive shit. This person said lots of depraved violent things happen, nothing ever comes of it, there's no consequences for anyone. It's meant to be commentary, but like yeah. What did anybody gain by reading this is the question. Oh, somebody like listed every single offensive sentences, of which there are many. Every single story is narrated in first person, and as none of the characters have a personality to speak of whatsoever, it's impossible to tell them apart. Agree. They're all racist, homophobic, misogynistic jackasses. Agree. I read a lot of books with unlikable characters, and that doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna rate a book low. This one was just like shitty characters, don't see the point, not well written, not engaging in any way, just a blah. I'm only not giving it 1 star because like I reserve 1 stars for books I like am seething over. Like I detest with every fiber of my being, and that's not necessarily how I felt about Palo Alto. I also watched the movie. The movie was better. So anyway, another book that I agree with the general consensus. Okay, we're on to our next book. It's gonna be Those Girls by Lauren Saft. Know nothing about this. I think it discusses slut shaming and rape culture. I don't know what type of stance it takes on that or what the storyline even is. So going in not knowing anything, and I'll update you when I know more. Well, page 1 has the word slutcapades. So page 10, and I already get it. Nice moves, Molly said. Tommy back into the car. Nice dead baby. The book basically opened with a girl going to get plan B, which she's done a lot of times, and her best friend's making fun of her, and they both are just bitchy best friends. So that's what's happening. Okay, full disclosure, I have been reading this book for 7 days. I just can't get through more than like 30 pages at a time. It's put me in kind of a reading slump, like I can't pick up anything else. But I can't honestly tell you yet if I like it or not. I really do not know. Everyone in this is totally vile, and I guess this is one of those books that you could use the word problematic for, because there are so many just nasty things being said about each other, and none of it is being unpacked, and I'm assuming it's not going to be. However, again, we come to the conversation about what makes a bad book. I feel like some booktubers would have the opinion that because it's problematic, quote unquote, I have to rate it lower. But what if I find it highly entertaining and interesting? If you're telling me because of the subject matter being influential to teen readers who pick this up and think that these deplorable characters are somehow an inspiration to them, does that mean I have to give it a lower rating than I normally would? Because then you're saying that a book that I find boring and dull and completely uninteresting, but it said a lot of positive things and sent a good message and had absolutely no problematic elements, I then therefore am supposed to rate that high. I feel like that's what you're saying. I'm not saying this is entertaining, because clearly it's taken me a very long time to read. I'm trying to be my own devil's advocate. I can tell you one thing, I'm not rating it low, like incredibly low. I don't hate it by any means, and I don't know if the problematic elements are gonna make me rate it lower. I guess we'll just have to see. Those are just my thoughts about 60 pages from the end, and I plan to finish it today. Finally, I have to, and then I'll let you know what I thought for real. So I finished Those Girls. I think if I gave it a rating, I guess I have to give it a rating, it would be like a 3.5, a 3.75. I don't agree with like the super low rating, but I'm not of the unpopular opinion this book was great or something. If you have never read this and don't plan to, which I don't really recommend this to anybody, it's just one of those like books that I can't think of anybody who I know that would actually like love this. There are these girls in high school who are all best friends, and they sleep with each other's boyfriends and secretly drug each other and try to, I don't know, like get revenge on each other for the shitty things they do. They call each other whores and sluts, and they call everyone else whores and sluts and prostitutes. So it's like full of slut shaming, and that's not really unpacked at any point. They also had a ton of like racial commentary, but the book ends with, there's no excusing anyone's behavior, but there's also no real satisfaction for any of the storylines, because at the end all of the girls end up being best friends all over again, regardless of the shitty things that they all did to each other. And yeah, I just don't know like the point. At some points I thought there was an attempt at some commentary on slut shaming, but I didn't really get that. I don't think that like the author is trying to excuse these girls' behavior. She just wrote a story about a shitty group of friends. She's not trying to give a moral compass to teen readers or anything. But I don't know, I guess it's up to the reader to decide if it's wrong for people to write books like this without telling the readers not to act like the characters in the book. So I'm assuming that all of the reviews are going to say that the girls were unlikable or mean, or that the book encourages the stereotype that girls are mean or something. Okay, so my friends have said, I want to connect with the main characters and relate to them in some way. I want to feel empowered by them. None of the characters are likable or empowering in any way. I don't think they're meant to be, so I have no idea why they're friends, because they're so mean to each other. I think that was kind of the intent of the book. The intent of the book isn't to look at the characters and be like, oh, like I understand them. I couldn't find the main point of the plot. I was lost in an overwhelming meanness of characters. I started looking for the point, but couldn't really find it. Same. The writing was actually really good. I agree, which is why I'm giving it a 3 something. Like, I didn't get the point, but I liked reading it. Okay, other friends rated it 1 or 2. These girls are mindless and annoying. They are not likable and hard to relate to. This person said, in an attempt to turn bitchy, horrible, shallow teenage girls into a raw and meaningful book. I don't know if it was trying to be impactful and meaningful, because it didn't like try to excuse any behavior or like send a message. So I don't know. A lot of people I see DNF'd it, which I get, because at the very beginning I started highlighting what I thought were like the problematic parts so I could comment on them, and then I ended up highlighting something on every single page, and so I stopped doing it. I always have a really hard time understanding people's reviews of a book when their critiques are the intent of the story. Like, I just can't wrap my mind around it. Anyway, I only have one more book, so I'll talk to you when I start it. It is time for the last book of the 5. It's The Flame Alphabet by Ben Marcus. He looks like a fun guy. I left the book to the end that I'm least interested in, probably just because I know the least about it, and the largest book I left till the end, which is never a good decision in these types of videos, and I played myself yet again. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this. I hope to finish it this weekend, and then I can put this video up with all of my final thoughts. This video's taken months. Looking forward to finding out what this is about, and hopefully I'll love it, you know? I'm interested to find out why people don't like it, considering I don't even know the plot. Like, it'll be fun to find out what's wrong with it. But I'm not going into it, I'm trying not to go into it negative. It's hard not to go into a book looking for the flaws when you know it's rated low, but I'll try to flip my perspective. Okay, so the first page was really weird, and apparently it is about an epidemic that has struck the country, and the sound of children's speech has become lethal. Why? I've never read the synopsis. I couldn't tell you. I bought this because I thought it was pretty. So I'm maybe a quarter of the way through, and I really don't like this book. If I wasn't doing this as like a video, I probably would be DNFing it. I'm not sure, but I may have stumbled upon a reason people are reading it low, and apparently it's Jewish children who their language is toxic. So that's an interesting subplot. I didn't really know what to expect, but this isn't necessarily what I expected from like children or killing people as a story. I also just really hate the way it's written. It's just really, like, I don't even know how to explain it. To me, it's overwritten. You know how someone can overact? I feel like this has been overwritten. Here's a sentence. The reasoning, when reasoning seemed possible, was simple. Better to stand up for those happy moments, if that's what they were, and give Esther a father who wasn't such a spoiler, who didn't turn pale on the occasion of even the most basic speech. But my face leaked force each time. A daughter was someone to pretend to be healthy for. A daughter shouldn't see such sickness. Okay. Oh. Hi, pimple. This book was so bad it gave me a pimple. So I spent all day reading this because I knew if I put it down, I would not pick it back up again. I'm sorry, but I still look like this. I haven't left the house and it's dinner time. The Flame Alphabet, I give 2 stars. Actually, it might be a 1-star book. I don't feel like I actively hated anything. Why am I holding my own hand? I didn't actively hate anything about this. It just wasn't good in any way. I just didn't like the story. I felt like it dragged on for, it was only 300 pages, but I don't know. This felt like one of the longest books I've ever read. It was just really exhausting, and I feel like not a lot of interesting things happened, but maybe it was because there was just so much like exposition that I can't even like pinpoint any plot that I enjoyed. Oh my gosh, so I didn't like this because it was like offensive, but overall it was just really dull. It was overwritten. There might be a term for that. I don't know. It seemed like he was trying too hard, but to what end, I do not know. I don't understand the point of this. I guess it's like a commentary on how we communicate. The synopsis says he's the most maniacally gifted writers of our generation. So like even the synopsis is trying real hard. And the main character, oh my god, he's just, a lot of these books had really unlikable main characters. I don't think he was set out to be an unlikable character, but he was just really pathetic to me, and I could not stand anyone or anything or any plot. Wasn't good, guys. It was not a good time. But let's see what other people had to say. So none of my friends have ever read or reviewed this. The first review I see is for 1 star, and it says this is the most boring thriller I've ever read. Was this supposed to be a thriller? This person says the book fails to deliver. Oh, this person also hated the narrator. If only he would shut up. I did not like the earnest tone of the writing. I did not like the characters. The writing is so noisy. The italics are masturbatory. I couldn't even stand the typeface. Oh, this person went in. This person has a good review, but I can't understand any of the words in her review. They're all too big for me. A lot of people DNF'd it. This person gave it 2 stars. It's the ripest prose I've read. This story drags on with all-encompassing dread and relentless anguish. This person's review has too many big words too. Maybe I should just stick to YA. Jewish sci-fi, a new genre? Actually, a lot of the reviews I'm seeing are good. Maybe this is one of the ones where you only gave it a 5 or only gave it a 1. What grates me most is Marcus's audacity to name a character Esther only to have her mope around, infect her parents by speaking to them, and do nothing to forward the plot. The only people who move the plot forward are 2 incredibly boring men. Yeah. Okay, so a lot of people are mentioning the daughter in here. She is meant to be extremely unlikable, and although it seemed like she was just kind of a angsty teen, however, she also had the power to infect her parents when she spoke. So I don't know, it felt like kind of just a commentary on youth today, but also giving them too much power. The premise is interesting. It is. It just took it not where I don't know, I wanted it. Although I don't know what it could have done that would have made me enjoy it more, to be honest. Overall, just like weird. Everyone said his writing was great, but my review is different, I guess. So those are my thoughts, and tomorrow when I don't look like this, I'll give a nice little recap of my feelings about all 5 books. Okay, so final thoughts. I read all 5 books, and let's just go over like what the ratings were. So the lowest rated averagely was Campfire Stories of Western Canada, and I gave this 1 star, so I'm actually below like the average rating. Next was the Flame Alphabet, next lowest rated, and this was my next lowest rated with like 1.5 stars, again below the average rating. Next in line was Those Girls by Lauren Saft, and this one I was above the average rating. I give this like a 3.5. The next spot was 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl, and I gave this one 5 stars, so I was definitely well above the average rating. And the last one was Palo Alto. This one I gave like, what did I give this, 2 stars? So below the average rating. So the intent of the experiment was to see if the trend continues that low rated books I end up liking. The results were kind of mixed. Like 2 of them I enjoyed more than people seem to, and 3 I pretty much agreed with. So do I like books that other people hate? Sure. Do I hate books that other people hate? Sure. So what got accomplished? Nothing. But I did read 5 books, 3 of which have been on my TBR for years. If I had continued the Closet Unhaul, I guarantee these all would have shown up like quite soon. So I'm glad I read some books that I have had for a long time. I feel like my other final thoughts should touch on some kind of conversation about like controversial topics and how readers in general tend to rate books lower if they have topics that the reader doesn't necessarily agree with. And obviously it's okay to rate a book however you want to rate it. So like we can't critique other people for rating a book low just because it covers topics that they're not comfortable with or don't agree with. But I do find it interesting that when reading a book, if you don't agree with the way a character is acting, oftentimes you'll rate the book lower. There's some kind of conversation in there, but I don't know how to go there. Maybe we can have such conversations in the comments below and express our feelings, and we can really dive into stuff, because I don't know. I had a lot of conflicting feelings throughout this entire reading process and trying to figure out like what makes a bad book. And clearly I came to no conclusion. I just read 5 low-rated books, and that was my experience. I hope you enjoyed. I don't know. This video is so fucking long. It's intense. So I'll see you later. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like me to do the flip version of this and read the highest rated books on my TBR, obviously I'm down to do that. So let me know, and I'll see you later. Bye.